Hey guys, this is Rise, and I'm here with Eebster for Commentary of the Week number 11. And sorry it took so long to get this one out, but sometimes you just got to work within multiple people's schedules. And so Eebster was gracious enough to join us today, even though he's been a busy guy lately. I've also been a little bit busy. And now we're going to be commentating a huge, huge game that you guys, the audience, has chosen as the Commentary of the Week number 11. We got Jaedong facing off against Fantasy. Now, some of you may know this and some of you may not, but there's a reason behind why this game was chosen. Not just because it's got Jaedong, and not just because it has Fantasy. Really, this was chosen because of the two players playing against each other. Obviously, if you guys have been paying attention to the pro scene in the past, I don't know, month, you would know that these two kind of just faced off against each other in an epic 5-game OSL final bout. This was for all the glory, and both these players wanted to win it. But at the end, Jaedong pulled it out after being down 2-0. He was down 2 games, and he came back in a 3-game sweep to win the OSL finals. So Fantasy may be having a little bit of bad blood on his mind. Jaedong probably less than what Fantasy did, but I'm sure Jaedong still wants to win this, because if he wins this, he proves that he is, in fact, the deserving OSL champ. And Fantasy would love to tie that up to prove that, no, he really can stand up against Jaedong. So my prediction, though, is that Jaedong will win this, but I don't know the map statistics all that well to say whether or not it's very Zerg favorite or Terran favorite at the moment. Eebster, what are your predictions? And you want to tell us a little bit about the map?
Yeah, sure. So Heartbreak Ridge is a new map that I think has only been used for maybe a month now. So there aren't a whole lot of games. I think there were fewer than 10 games before this one. So there's not a lot of stats to look at least before this game was played. But it does have a lot of ridges in the middle of the map that should be that should favor Terran, at least for in terms of Fantasy's play, because he always goes for mech. It should really favor his siege tanks. Although, given the success of 2-hatch mutas that Jaedong's had recently, I don't know if he's going to be able to sort of exploit the ledges to his advantage. I think so far the maps actually look pretty balanced in the games that have been played, which is interesting. I always like looking at the new maps the Pro League comes out with, but they tend not to be very balanced. But this one might be pretty good. It's pretty exciting, and just in terms of the matchup quickly, I've been waiting sort of intensely for this game since it was played, actually since before it was played, not just because of the OSL finals and the feud, but because, I, up until maybe a week ago, did not like Fantasy. I didn't like him, I didn't like his builds, I didn't like the way he beat Flash, I didn't like the way he came up with the stupidest Valkyrie strategy I've ever seen, right after Boxer did it, and, Boxer made it look sweet, but he has been able to beat the best players, and I mean, he lost in the OSL finals, like 2 years in a row, but he took 2 games off Jaedong in a row in the OSL finals. So, no matter what happens, it's gotta be exciting. It's not like, Firebat Hero, he makes his games exciting and stuff like that, and then you have people like Boxer who you just watch them because they're cool, but Fantasy's games, he's good, and he's cool, and he's exciting, and he's managed to win everything. He's got everything going for him, so I might have to start changing my views on him. On the other hand, Jaedong is, he's perfect. I mean, he's the legend killer. He's got, I think something like 68% overall win rate. So it looks like ZVT is actually his weakest matchup. But his weakest matchup is, I don't know, it's a little bit like, the shortest basketball player on a team. He's 63%, which probably fewer than 5% of the pros would have that in any matchup. So, I don't know, it's going to be ridiculous.
Well, you know what? I gotta agree with you. I think that Fantasy is kind of showing that he's more than just another name, another face in the crowd. I do think that as a player, he's a boring person, and he's got no personality. But through his games, we do see personality, we do see creative builds, and we do see some ballsy play, to be honest. And I mean, the Fantasy build itself, in my opinion, is a ballsy play because it's so weak early on. It just assumes that the other player is going like a muta build of some sort, and it's very difficult for the other player to deal with it. And it looks like right here we're going to see maybe something similar, maybe the actual Fantasy build. He's got a factory going down now. He's got a starport also going down. There's also an academy going down. I mean, he's all over the place right now with tech buildings, and so it's very possible that he's going to be going for his vulture drop and then into some sort of Valkyrie build. I do think this map is going to be actually Zerg favored only because, well, especially because it's Jaedong playing, and Jaedong just knows how to use those cliffs, and there is the armory. So this may, after all, be the Fantasy build, or he may go for something crazy. I don't know actually. The armory is obviously used for the Valkyries, but it's possible that he's going Goliaths. I mean, we just watched a recent game. I just commentated a game between a couple of players, and the Terran player decided to go mass Goliaths, actually pretty successfully, actually. So, I mean, there's a lot of builds going out, and to be honest, I don't know what's the most effective on this particular map, but Fantasy has definitely got a lot of Marines building over here. He made a mistake last time he played against Jaedong, and that was he didn't make Marines fast enough, especially, I think he went a 2-port build in one of the OSL final matches, and he did not have enough Marines. He just could not deal with what Jaedong was able to throw at him after he lost a couple of Valkyries. So, right now, it looks like he's actually kind of learned from that a little bit. He's got turrets going up with perfect timing. He's got Marines already out. It looks like he's going to be making a Valkyrie here. He does have 2 vultures, and so this does look like a stronger variation, maybe a slightly slower tech of the Fantasy build because he's gotten more Marines. And look at this. He's actually going out with the vultures, and he's running across Heartbreak Ridge number 1, 2, and 3, and he may be heading over to try to do some economic damage to Jaedong right off the bat, but he's going to run into some difficulty here because of the muta, and Jaedong just microing the small amount of Marines, but at the same time, Fantasy has a really good amount of turrets, and he's doing a pretty good job, and the vultures have gotten all the way into Jaedong's base. They've taken down the first drone. It looks like they may get a second one very quickly. He's only going up against Lynx. He gets down a second, third drone now, and those vultures are still alive, so the question is how well can he micro? One of them goes down. Jaedong continuing to micro, takes out the Valkyrie. Wow, Jaedong is on top of his game, and Fantasy may be unable to micro both places at one time as well as Jaedong. And right now, it looks like Jaedong is in pretty good control of this match.
Yeah, this is terrible for Fantasy. When he got those vultures out, I thought he was going to have a good chance of winning the game because Jaedong... He has no sunkens in his base, and the vultures have speed. They're not supposed to die to anything because he didn't have any mutas popping. Well, he had some mutas popping out, but he had none of them in his base. And now that he's lost those vultures and he wasn't able to distract the mutas, now there's going to be sunkens up. Which I mean, the vulture harass is sort of the key to this build. And Jaedong's going to be he's going to be getting lurkers. He's going to be off 3 bases. I mean, this isn't the 2-hatch build that we've seen off of Jaedong sort of actually a lot recently, but this is going to be perfectly fine to deal with the Valkyries and Marines and Vultures and Goliaths and tanks and every other unit in the game, which is what Fantasy likes to produce. And I don't know, Fantasy, I feel like he doesn't have a Marine force built up right now, and I think okay? All right, so he has 3 racks going down. He was only building off of I think 1 racks for that time, and at the same time, if he can do damage with these 2 vultures here, this could be critical. There's nothing there to defend. The key to the Fantasy build, and I think the reason that Fantasy used to be sort of more effective than he is right now, is to be able to get the vultures. I think. Is to be able to get them into a 3rd base, which is undefended. And the reason for a while it wasn't doing anything was because the 2-hatch builds weren't able to, or were able to easily fend off the vultures. The vultures, though, on a relatively open map and on a 3-hatch build, they should be able to get a good harass, and they haven't been able to do much of anything yet. And I really think you can't win with this build if you don't do tons and tons of damage to the vultures. Because like you said, it's a risky build, and he just lost another Valkyrie.
Yeah, man. I mean, Fantasy, he's just lacking in a little, I don't know what, je ne sais pas. You know, it's like all over the place with his play right now, and he can't decide what exactly to focus on, and that's a lot due to Jaedong's tactics. You know, he is a killer with Muta alone, and right now, you know, he's just got one control group of Muta, and all he's doing is macroing up. I mean, we haven't even really touched upon the fact that he has 3 bases. You know, he's got the top left. He had that hidden for a while. It looks like it was discovered, obviously, as there was vulture harass over there, but he's been getting minerals from that base the entire time, and Fantasy cannot seem to get anything up and running. He keeps losing units. He keeps losing SEVs. He's lost 3 or 4 Valkyries. I mean, and it looks like he may actually lose another one very shortly as he tries to take out an Overlord, but there are Scourge coming to intercept. But no, they're not going to actually make it just in time, as Jaedong was obviously hoping to. But Jaedong's still in very much control right here. Lurkers coming out. He's already got the tech up to get Lurkers out there. But Fantasy actually doing a pretty good job over there with Spider Mines in very likely places. But look at Jaedong on top of that, running in a couple. He knew that they were there. He had his Overlord there. And another Vulture harass going on inside Jaedong's base. But Jaedong, not an idiot. He makes a Sunken. He does make Sunkens, which certainly is important at this point. A lot of players forego that for whatever reason, and they always end up finding themselves in trouble, but Jaedong is not going to let that happen. Fantasy now has 2 factories, by the way. He is looking to get some tanks out for sure, because obviously the Lurkers out there, he's going to have to deal with that. There's also a bunker there, which is going to protect him a lot, and it looks like he's keeping an eye on that mineral patch in the temples behind him. So, you know, he's doing his best to stay in control of what's going on here, but Jaedong is just on top of everything. Another supply depot about to go down, goes down. He's got a nice little contain going on over here, and really there's not going to be much that Fantasy can do to break out until he gets a couple more tanks. I don't even know if he has siege tech right now. He needs a couple more tanks. It looks like he's going 6 racks at this point. And really, he's going to try to macro up. But Jaedong is far ahead. He's got 3 bases, maybe a 4th going up at the bottom right. I can't exactly tell if that's a hatchery or not. And, you know, he knows he's in control. And he's not going to let this game slip out of his hands just because Fantasy is able to macro up a little bit. I think that he's going to continue with this harass. He goes in again, taking out a couple more SCVs, take out the one building a science vessel. Valkyrie's back out on the field. One goes down. The other almost, no. Good micro, sorry, from Fantasy, able to keep that other one alive, but it's not going to be enough. I mean, he's still continuing to lose SCVs, delaying that science vessel, science facility from going down. +1 carapace upgrades on those mutas, by the way. And Jaedong, again, he's in control. He's got map control, and oh, Valkyrie not going down. Maybe just one last hit on it. Jaedong, all he's got to do is focus on it for a second, and he'll be able to take it down. Valkyrie not even get any shots off. It's in the red, and Jaedong, if he just focuses on it, it goes down. Now there are no more Valkyries, and Jaedong has taken out the air superiority that Fantasy was working on that entire time so thoroughly, and now Fantasy has lost like 5 Valkyries to Jaedong's Muta, and I just feel like he's at such a unit deficit in terms of money invested in those units that he's lost, where I don't know if he can come back from this.
Yeah, Valkyries are expensive units. They're not like Corsairs. You can't afford to lose them to Scourges. Of course, you can't afford to lose Corsairs either, but oh my god! Oh, and I think this game is over. There's only 1 turret defending his mineral line, unless Jaedong loses all his mutas here to Marines. Oh my god, that is huge slipping control there. I think he lost 3 mutas there. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Jaedong double expanded. So it doesn't even matter if he loses all these mutas. All he has to do is not lose, like, 2 expansions, and he should easily be able to win this. I think he's on 5 bases, or it might just be 4, but it doesn't matter. Fantasy's on 2, and you just can't deal with that. Jaedong will be teching to Hive pretty soon, and Jaedong's Defiler control is unbelievable. And I mean, I don't even think there's any tanks yet to deal with those Lurkers. Well, or was there 1 tank?
He's got a few out now, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think.
It's certainly not going to be enough if he loses that science facility. He only has 1 science vessel out, and oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, that's got to be game. I think that's got to be. He has to lift the science facility. I think he must have just finished the radiate, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is it. I mean, he might. Maybe Fantasy will be able to defend with those Marines, but I think I mean, Jaedong's just producing mass mutas out of his hatcheries, and somehow it looks like he did take care of the lurkers out front, but yeah, that one bunker isn't going to save his tanks from like 12 mulas that Jaedong's bringing.
Yeah, Jaedong definitely has control of this game, and really, as long as he plays it safe, keeps his macro going, gets some units up, continues his tech, he's going to be fine. But it looks like he's content to try to win this game, mostly just using Muta, and now he's got some Lurker to back it up, but they're getting taken out very quickly by those tanks. But more importantly, he's just got so many Muta, so that's a lot of Marines though. So now he's going to be in a lot of trouble if he doesn't, if he actually lets Fantasy out of his base with all those Marines. It looks like he still has quite a few Muta though, a second control group to do this, and the thing is that Jaedong's micro is so good that he may be able to take out most of those and use these ridges to his advantage.
Yeah, but that was
there is the other. Oh, a Radiate goes down. Jaedong having trouble splitting off that Muta, still not finally just getting it out there, but losing a couple of Mutas and taking a lot of damage. And Jaedong, he's got to be a little bit more careful. This all Muta build is not going to work for much longer as upgrades continue to complete for those Marines. And while he's going to be able to continue taking out units like this as he's just moving in, he's losing them carelessly as well. Oh, another couple Valkyries out, so Jaedong really has to try to come up with some sort of switch. And now Vulture's doing some more harassing. And oh my God, look at that mind drag into all those drones. Jaedong taking heavy losses, going to lose all the drones at that base, trying to bring the Muta back. He's got lurkers out on one of the ridges on the map, and really Jaedong is in a lot of trouble here if Fantasy decides to move out, because Fantasy has built up a significant force, and Jaedong continued to just throw Muta at him. And I don't know if he didn't realize how many Marines that Fantasy had, but he just continued to throw Muta at him and just lost them over and over and over and over. And now Jaedong, regardless of the amount of bases, he's got no units. He's got nothing to defend this except for one control group, and it's way too late. It doesn't even get down to Science Vessel over there with bugged out Valkyries, but Jaedong is just in so much trouble, and now I can't believe it, but it looks like Fantasy and his patience waiting game is actually paying off for him.
Yeah, this is the UV, I think, coming out in Fantasy, because I can't believe how many Marines he got out all at the same time. It looked like it was over, and now he's going to be making this massive push. I still think it's a close game. I think Jaedong is going to be able to hold off pretty well, especially if he can get this Science Vessel. If he can get this Science Vessel, it's going to be crucial, because that is, oh my God, he gets both Valkyries, though. But that is the one reason I think these Mutas have been so ineffective. I mean, that is a ton of Medics and Marines, but that Irradiate was just horrible. And the Science Vessels have been able to, they've been able to scout the Lurkers, so he hasn't been able to use those as effectively. And I don't know. I think Jaedong was just slipping. He lost something like 6 Mutas in the base before this push came for no good reason. Oh, that was a good split though. That was a good split, and it hit the low HP Mutalisk. So he still though. Oh no, that's a ton of Mutalisks, but they're all going down. He's got to delay this push, but Fantasy has no more Marines. Where did Fantasy's Marines go? I don't know if that was his whole army, or yeah, they're getting destroyed. Well, they're getting rebuilt is what they're getting, but that was huge. That's giving time. They haven't shown Jaedong's bases in a while. I don't know if he's been tacking up or if he's still gonna go for Mutilaying or Lurker laying. But at this point, with this push, I mean Jaedong's got to be able to get Hive Tech up soon.
Yeah, it's amazing, though. They just show that he's still on Lair, and he is trying to win this game with Muta alone. He is, he does have, I think, 4 gas. He's got +2 Carapace on those Mutas, so they are pretty well armored, but I haven't seen the upgrade on the Marines in a while, but I'm guessing that at this point, the Marines got to have at least +1 weapons, and quite possibly +2, and this is where we're going to figure out whether or not Jaedong is still in this game. If he loses this expansion, he's pretty much out. I mean, it'll be 3 base against 2 base, and really, with the amount of units that Fantasy has, I think that he would be perfectly capable of taking Jaedong down with what he has left. And Jaedong now running in. It looks like this is going to be the last attack for him. And it looks like he gets the Science Vessels down. All the mutants are doing as much damage as they can, but at the same time, they're being taken out by all the Marines. The Marines force them away, and this is going to be it for Jaedong, I think. I mean, he's got a couple of Muta left. He's trying to micro with what looks to be 3 Muta, maybe 4. Fantasy continuing just to pump Marines, and he can't take out anything. He doesn't even have enough Muta to one-shot Marines anymore. Jaedong forced to retreat, and he's in horrible shape right now. He's taking a beating, and you can see he's actually sweating a little bit. So I definitely think that he was overconfident in where he was with his position in the game, and understandably so, because he definitely was doing so much damage to Fantasy, but he didn't do, I think that he really didn't do enough damage economically with those Muta, and he just kept spending a Muta, and that was it. And now we see another group of Marines and a medic heading over to another expansion of Jaedong's, and really, if he takes that out, I gotta say, now that Fantasy's got his third base up, second expansion, this is gonna be it for Jaedong unless he can defend this successfully, get up some sort of force that isn't just Muta and something else. There are +2 weapons on those Marines. Now Goliaths are out, +1 armor on the Marines as well. Another Science Vessel, another Irradiate. It looks like he splits that out pretty quickly, but still, the damage is done here, and Jaedong is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and Jaedong has 4 bases, but if you look before, he didn't have any drones at his main base still, because of that Vulture harass that killed something like 11 drones with just a couple vultures. And yeah, he only has 1 drone mining minerals there. And that's why he can't tech up, because he has to keep producing mutas. He can't even produce drones. I don't think there's any way he can stop this. I think it's going to be GG pretty soon. I can't believe this. I can't believe what I'm saying. Jaedong so far ahead in GG! GG coming from Jaedong! Oh my god. And Fantasy has killed the Legend Killer. And I don't know, there were a few things that turned that game around, but I gotta blame Jaedong's overconfidence with his Mutalisks, because he seemed to think that that's all he needs to win StarCraft games anymore. He doesn't need to rebuild drones, he doesn't need to get Zerglings, or he got a few Lurkers and then just ran them straight into the front door, all to die doing absolutely nothing. It's like they were taking hits for the Mutalisks or something. It doesn't work against tanks. And Fantasy was just patient. He took a ton of damage from those Mutalisks, but still was able to come back. And it's not even like Jaedong went for 2 hatch mutas. He went all in with his mutas off of 3 bases. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that, for one thing, he probably could have pulled that off against a Terran player like, I don't know, Frisian. But really, he's going up against a OSL contender. I mean, really, Fantasy looked like he could have won it after the second game. We didn't know if Jaedong had it in him to come back. And although Jaedong did and showed that he really was a winner, it just wasn't, it wasn't enough. And really, Jaedong, I think, just thought that he could beat anyone with his Mutalisk micro. Maybe he's been reading the forums too much, or listening to our commentaries talk about how he's got the best Mutalisk micro in the world. But I'll tell you what, man, it was not good enough to beat a player like Fantasy just with Mutalisk. Fantasy was patient. He didn't let it get to him. He got his 6. Once he got those 6 racks up, I mean, he was able to just pump Marines. They're so cheap. And he just continued to make Science Vessel, even though they kept getting taken out. He also continued to make Valkyries when he couldn't make Science Vessels because he lost his Science Facility. Then he went to Goliaths. He had tanks for Lurkers in case there was a tech switch to that. He had Scan. He was all over the map with his Scan. And in the end, Jaedong just was, again, overconfident. And I'm going to say it comes down to that, because I think that if Jaedong played that game again, he could win it. But he doesn't have that opportunity. Fantasy has won it, and now the question is Fantasy as good as Jaedong? I don't know. I'll let you guys answer that. So, Eebster, unless you got any last words, maybe you want to give a shout-out to anyone, or you give your YouTube link out or something like that. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say one more thing about this game, and that was he was overconfident with his Muta Micro, and it failed him in the end. I mean, just terrible Muta Micro, to be honest.
Okay. Well, if that's all you got, that's all I got. And I hope you guys enjoy that Commentary of the Week. Commentary of the Week number 12 has already been decided. And hopefully that'll be up in the next couple of days. I think that's actually going to be done with Parse X, for those of you who might know him from the Commentator Idol, he was the third or fourth person voted out. He didn't make it to the end, but he did a pretty good job. And so look forward to that for sure. And I think you can already vote for Commentary of the Week number 13. But don't worry, we'll be catching up. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks to Eebster for coming out to do this with me. And I'll see you guys in the next commentary. Take care.